Good morning, dear friends. Holy Eden. Oh, we lost someone already. It's wonderful to see you again. It is Rosh Chodesh Nisan, Thursday, March 23rd, the first day of Nisan. Oh, that was Eli that went off. We're studying the entire Talmud, one page, one line at a time. Presently, Pesachim, the first chapter, page 5b. And we have been slowly but surely, meticulously and methodically advancing issue by issue, with many detours in between, to identify thus far the responsibility to search for chametz, to eliminate chametz. And soon we're going to talk more about ownership of chametz. Along the way, we asked about the difference in responsibility between landlord and tenant. And we came up with a number of criteria. Much of it has to do with the date of when the tenant receives access to his home. Professor, you should know we missed you yesterday. And Rebbe Nachum, we missed you at the end. I was looking for, you never have to feel bad to leave, but I just want you to know that we cherish and
I'll
value.
tell you the truth. On Wednesdays,
I'm just trying to say that we cherish and value you. That's all.
No, I appreciate it. But on Wednesdays, I have a Bar Ilan course that I participate in, so that's what cuts in.
No
I
problem.
apologize.
So we spent the bulk of yesterday really following what is probably the most Chazal, Torah Shabbal Peh type analysis and dialogue, identifying Hebrew words to try to probe how we know that the destruction of the chametz has to be Erev Pesach and not on Pesach. Usually the first day means the first day, and the first day of Pesach is not Erev Pesach. It is the first day of Pesach. And so we spent a good bit of time exploring the reference to B'yom HaRishon, on the first day, Tashbisu Sar Mibatechem, where there is the instruction to get rid of the chametz. We then referenced other places in the Torah where there is use of the word Rishon, and then we ended up throwing all the Rishons out by explaining that Rishon is there, but there's a special limud, there are special mitzvot that we have in the merit of the observance of the holidays described as Rishon. And today we're going to move on to, and then we brought other sages of the Mishnah who had slightly different formula, cheshbonot, and biblical analysis to determine that bedikas chametz happens Erev Pesach. Maybe it's because you have to burn the chametz, and you can't burn anything that's not food on that food to be eaten on Yontif. That was Rabbi Akiva's view. And then we had the last opinion, was it Rabbi Yossi? We had the position of Rabbi Yossi, who says that you're allowed to have chametz on part of Yom Rishon, and that's not going to be on Pesach, because you're not allowed to have chametz on Pesach. Suffice it to say, that was yesterday's conversation. Today's conversation is going to talk about the Isser, the prohibition of owning chametz. Now, I need to ask you a question. There is a lot of noise in the room where I am. Can you hear that noise? Well, Alan, I know you can hear the noise, but Dr. Hammer, you don't hear it, right?
I hear back.
I hear a bit of it, yeah.
Yeah, I hear a bit of it, but I can hear you over it.
All right, let me see what I can do. Here, gentlemen, I don't want to be a party pooper, but we could. All right, let's share the screen. Let's get started. You think I have any influence over what happens in the shul here?
Rabbi, is this going to ruin your whole video with the mask on or no?
Baruch Hashem, Jews are eating. They're talking Torah. Anyways, all right, gentlemen, do me a favor. Let's just do it in a more of a whisper. Gabrielle, ask the people that you're talking to if we can all talk in a whisper, because it's. Thank you. All right, here we go. Here is our new Gemara, and we are Hey Amud Beis, probing the source and the details of the Isser, the prohibition of owning chametz on Pesach. Ton Rabbanon, the sages in a brisa taught. Shivas Yomim Se'ar Lo Yimatze B'Vatechem. 7 days, Se'ar 11, you shouldn't have in your house, shouldn't be found in your house. Ma Talmud Loimar. Is this verse teaching us anything we didn't already know? V'haloi kvar nemar. There's already a pasuk, or there's an additional pasuk that says, Lo yira'eh lecha se'or b'chol gulecha. There should be no chametz, no leaven in your territory, in your portion. Shalber, the truck's unloaded or it's still idling there? It's unloaded? Okay, good. I'm sorry. So we have two psukim. Who needs two psukim? Surely one pasuk is sufficient. Let's take a peek at the two psukim. No leaven shall be found in your houses for 7 days. This is in the parsha of HaChodesh, the passage that we've been analyzing and reading in length. And so we might almost say that the Gemara's pattern here is loosely on the analysis of this passage in the Chumash. No leaven shall be found. Shivas yom 7 days. Whoever eats what is leaven, that person shall be cut off from the community of Israel. That is in Shemois, Parshas Boy. Now you have another pasuk, and this is at the end of Beshalach. Does that make sense? Maybe it's also in Boy. Forgive my ignorance. Yeah, it's the end of Boy. Matzois ye ochel. Matzah you shall eat. No. Here. Matzah ye ochel. Eshivas hayomim. Eat matzah 7 days. V'lo yeda elecha chametz. You should not have seen to you chametz. And there shall be no leavened bread or yeast. We'll discuss more what the difference of se'or and chametz is. The point is, there's two psukim in both the prohibition of chametz ownership. Bear with me.
Actually, it looks like the second statement covers more ground. So maybe the first one is indeed unnecessary.
Right. So that's the essence of our question. Why do we need two verses? The interesting thing, if you might ask, is the phrasing of the brisa is interesting. You know why? Because it says, he quotes a verse from Yud Beis, chapter 12. We already have a verse in chapter 13. So it's just an interesting to say we already have written and it's in a later source. It's just a style, but it's an interesting thing to note. Rashi. You know what's included in your whole territory? Your house. So what's the chiddush? If you're going to have a pasuk that seems to teach us the same thing, it has to be teaching us a new chiddush. But once I know that you cannot have chametz at all in your property, in your territory, obviously you also cannot have it in your house. The brisa is going to give us an answer. The brisa is not going to leave us hanging. Here is why there's two psukim. Shenemar lo yira elecha se'or, lo yira elecha se'or. It should not be seen to you leavened. But if you read it, lecha shalcha iatar roya, it is a prohibition to not see your own chametz. So hold on, let's go here. The second pasuk says, "Lo yeda elecha se'or shalcha iatar roya aval atar roya shalachein v'shal gvoya." One might imagine that if it's not your chametz, it could be seen around town. Only yours is a problem. And yachol yatmin. Maybe you could also hide the chametz v'yikabel pikdonos min hagoy. Tell all the Gentiles to deliver their best bottles of single malt, and you'll just hide it so it's not visible. Talmud loymar lo yimatzeh. So we have the other pasuk which tells us not only lo yeda elecha that it cannot be visible to you, but also lo yimatzeh, it should not be found in your midst. Found could be even if it's hidden under your couch, or in that closet, or in your pillows. Now, I know all you're thinking. Hold on a second. I know that the rabbi told me I should sell my chametz and put it in a closet. Yeah, because then it's not your closet. We'll get to that soon. But for now, at this point in time, if you're just going to have it in your house, not only you cannot see it around, you cannot have it, and even if it belongs to somebody else, Rashi. Hold on. Sorry, folks. All right.
Rabbi,
Yes.
when it says that you may see leaven that belongs to others, Gentiles, etc., is that a sort of left-handed heter to be able to go into a store that has chametz to buy something that is pesachim?
So let me explain. First of all, you are allowed to technically go. You can go in the streets if there's chametz around. But this brisa is not giving a heter. The brisa is basically telling us there are still holes in the picture. From this verse alone, I would still think that you could see other people's chametz in your home. And so this brisa is still probing. The brisa asks a question: why are there two verses? Then the brisa begins to paint for us what we would imagine had we not had both verses together. Or you shouldn't see sa'ar. So therefore we have let's read Rashi. From the fact that it says shouldn't be seen to you. I already know that whatever you see is seen to you, right? Anything that's in your vision is visible to you. So if I say you see something, I know it's you that's seeing it. So why is there the added word lecha? Mashma mina. What we infer is shalcha i'ata roya. You should not see that which is yours. That's what I would have. Avalata roya bigvulim. You could see in your own territory shalacherim someone else's chametz. Like for example, if a Gentile keeps his stash. Or you would take your bottle of Blue Label and say it's our Pesach. I hereby donate this to the Beis Hamikdash, and then you can keep it on in your display case or in your bar. Yochel, this is not what you're allowed to do. This is what I would think you could do had I not had the second pasuk. Yochel. Furthermore, Rashi says, Nil moed mi mikra zeh sheyatmin es shaloi biyad. No, I would think also you just put it out of your range of vision, vidayoy, and it would be sufficient. The whole lo yira exiv, all it says is not to be seen. And more so v'kabel bigdonis menanochi. And Rashi is explaining the Gemara. The haksiv lecha halmad loymar lo yimatz, and that's why we have the second verse that says not only you shouldn't see it, it should not be found. Asar lecha hatmana, you can't hide it. Because even that which is hidden out of your range of vision is still in your possession, it's found to you. And furthermore, it's clear that even if it doesn't belong to you, it is not allowed. So now I understand that there is something very unique and important about the verse in chapter 13. I'm sorry, in chapter 12, lo yimatzah. Lo yimatzah and lo yira.
Rabbi,
yes,
it would be interested to see what the Shulchan Aruch says, because we have a kosher bakery here, very, very kosher, and they cover the chametz with plastic sheets that you could see through.
but that's where that's where I already predicted that comment, and I shared with you that most likely, if you've seen or you yourself have kept chametz around, it's because you've sold it. And so now, not only did you sell the chametz, when you sell, you're actually selling the space that it's in as well. And so I preempted your very good question. Did I not? Okay. Maybe I didn't understand the question. So
No, because this store is really highly kosher Hasidic store.
Right. So they probably sold the whole. They probably sold the whole store.
Actually, the hidush that I see in your comment is that the space is sold, because I didn't know that, and I thought that when we sell chametz, we still have ability to see it, even though it belonged to a Gentile who bought this chametz.
The ideal practice. We're getting ahead of ourselves, but the ideal practice is that when one sells the chametz, any area, room, space that is sold, you lock it, and you even put some kind of siman, some kind of note or mark or tape or something to show that it's truly a part and no longer your jurisdiction. Now, all right, well, there are many more details that are beyond the scope of our present discussion, but it's important to know that. So here we're talking about if you have a safe, and all the Gentiles have $100 bottles of single malt, or maybe they have bourbon. They have bourbon that was made during the prohibition, and it's, I guess today it's a collector's item, and so they give it to you to put in your. No, you can't do that. Now, I don't think whiskeys really improve much once they're out of the barrel and in the bottle, but I'm not the right person if you want to know what to do with your barrels. I think we have people here that know a whole lot more than I do in that regards. But it is chametz, and just because you hit it, that doesn't mean it's not in your.
It doesn't last that long with you.
Listen, if you get enough cases. Now I only understand. Again, we're continuing to discuss what's prohibited, what's permitted. This is only now. I only think we're talking about a Gentile who is not under your military domain. The ain shari imcha b'chatzar, and he doesn't live in your chatzar. What about a Gentile who is under your domination, your domain? He's the shari imcha b'chatzar minayin, and he lives in your chatzar. Hamalemer lo yimatzei b'vateichem. It's not found in your home. Let's read Rashi. Ainly, I only know a Gentile that you're not allowed to have the chametz of someone that's not in your town, not in your under your dominion, whatever that means. And Rashi right away says that sounds strange, right? Obviously, it's a lesser chiddush that you're not allowed to have the chametz of someone that's essentially in your custody. It would be a bigger chiddush to say you're not allowed to have chametz of a Gentile that's not in your custody. And so Rashi says, yeah, that's a good question. The Gemara itself is going to ask that. So we have to sit with a degree of discomfort as we read these next few lines. This Gentile who somehow is a ben bias, let's be politically correct, and therefore you provide for him, and whatever he has is for all intents and purposes in your home. Or maybe he isn't actually somehow totally under your authority. Maybe we're talking about a military prison, but he lives in your home. Maybe he is a minayin. The Gemara is going to probe this. So again, the Brisa makes a comment that says, I only know about a Gentile that's not in your domain and doesn't live with you. How do I know that if the Gentile lives mamish with you, you also cannot have his chametz? I mean, I could try to come up with a theory. If the Gentile doesn't live with you and he puts chametz in your home, then it's basically under your control. But if he's in your home, so he keeps it in his own little Now I'll tell you,
What's
I
interesting-
personally have an issue, a challenge, because I have a daughter with special needs, and she has 24-hour nursing bli ayin hara to care for her. Those nurses are not Jewish, and they might have chametz, and so we over Pesach sell them the room in which my daughter is in, and tell them, and we get them a little refrigerator, and we say, please keep this, and it's not our house, it's yours. You keep your stuff there. And then we have another problem. My daughter, the food that she receives, which is specialized for her medical need, is chametz. So we sell to the Gentile. They take possession of the food, and they feed it to my daughter. Obviously, pekuach nefesh, you're allowed to feed when it's necessary, but that's something that we uniquely deal with. So we actually have a Gentile living in our home, or practically constantly in our home, and that is our. And many other Jews, for a variety of reasons, might also have a caretaker or live-in, or so it's not as unheard of as one might imagine. Yes,
I want that number when you're done, because my wife's sister is also special needs, and we need someone when we come to Florida to give aid, and we can't find anybody.
I'm not sure if I can help you, but they're welcome to reach out.
Thank you.
Probably the best bet, honestly, would be to privately hire whoever their nurse is and offer to pay them and fly them in and pay them extra to have them come along. That's probably your best bet. Anyways, let's go back to
Rabbi.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's one thing, nothing against you, believe me, but
Hold on. Let's just acknowledge this. Whenever someone says no offense,
Yeah,
get ready.
exactly. The minute you start with that, Alan.
Don't take this personally, Rabbi.
Nothing against you. All right, Alan, go ahead.
Yeah, keep going, Alan.
it's not your fault.
Keep digging.
But you make a seder outside, right? Does that mean? And many people come into the seder
Okay.
to join you in the seder.
Okay.
What do you do? Do you go through all this grass with the candlelight? I mean, somebody somewhere amongst the 200 people who come should bring some crumbs in their shoe under their shoes. Or
You're asking if after the Seder, or let's say after davening, 500 people cycle through the space over the morning and afternoon.
Yeah. What are you gonna do? You can't control that.
Right. That's the answer. That's the answer. You can't control that.
So you do a bedika before Pesach. You declare it ownerless.
Right.
And you hope for the best. Don't lick the floor over Pesach or ever. But I'll tell you, there are people that have a special. I'm going to mute you because there are people who, if they drop something on the floor, no questions asked, the food they throw out, and the vessel they'll either kasher, which is obviously be way above and beyond the halachic requirement, or some people will not use it that year. They'll wait till the next year. Maybe you've even encountered folks like that. Again, it's a way above and beyond the requirement of the law. But I believe the reason behind that is because what you said. If you're walking in the streets, maybe you're going to step in bubble gum that has in it some chametz, and that bubble gum's going to get stuck on your shoe. And then you're going to walk into the home, and maybe a minuscule fraction of a little piece of flour that became chametz. So that's not the halachic obligation. But when it comes to Pesach, you have all different extra chumras and hidurim. But anyways, let's go back to because we're still in the middle of a brisa. Our brisa asked the question. Tell me the parameters of the prohibition. I mean, it doesn't say this, but basically, behold, here are the parameters of the prohibitions of owning chametz. Let's explore two psukim that each complement one another. One without the other, I would think you could have stuff just out of vision, or maybe if it's not yours. And each pasuk complements the other to teach us you're not allowed to have chametz in your possession, visible to you, even if it belongs to a Gentile. You cannot have it as a pikadon. You cannot hide it. And even if the Gentile is a ben bayis, if it's your house, it cannot be found in your home. Rashi right away alerts us that this logic seems counterintuitive. It would be a greater chiddush, presumably, that a Gentile that's not under your responsibility would be not allowed to have chametz. It should be evident that a Gentile who is, let's say you have a foster child that's not Jewish. Well, they're not mandated not to eat chametz, but you might not want to allow them to have chametz in your home. But that would be obvious. Anyways, let's see. Let's see the brisa continue.
Be careful, don't mix up the two.
Actually,
Now, if I would only read the verse that says "La yimatzei bivatechem," it shouldn't be found in your homes, which we needed to say to teach us a chiddush. Even if they're in your home, they cannot have chametz. But now we have another question: what if you have other properties, other spaces? What if in your backyard you have a bar? How do I know what you should do if you have pits and ditches and caves? The prohibition of having chametz is in your entire possession, any real estate, your storage facility, your locker at the gym, anything that's your possession, you cannot have chametz. Rashi, many people that sell chametz, when they sell their chametz, you want to list all your places. So you list your address in Florida. You could, if you have if a guest suite in your kids' home where the kids keep for you, you would list that. If you have an office, you could list that. If you have a gym, a locker in the Y or the J or whatever it is, you could list that. And so all your property should not have chametz. Rashi ve'ini ela bebatim kilomer ve'im nemar zeh. If it would only say bevatechem, v'loy nemar v'loy yeira elachasar. Hayisi omer ainli she'asar lishois. Hold on, sorry. Folks, pardon me one second. I'm sorry. Sorry. Tell Shimi if the driver is back in the area, will pay to have him delivered, whatever the extra cost is. Sorry, folks, trying to arrange food delivery to the Shiva house. All right. Rashi. Without both psukim, I would think I would think the only problem is to have the chametz in your house. But in your locker, you don't usually have breakfast in your locker. Maybe you do. I don't know. So basically, this brisa is slowly showing me how each pasuk is needed to fill in details the other pasuk doesn't cover. And each one adds details. I am still not sufficiently educated, says the brisa. If it's in a home, you could transgress the prohibition of yirah, having it visible, having it found in your property, uval yatmin, and not being allowed to do hatmana, hide it in your property, ubal yikabo pikdonis minagoy, and a prohibition of receiving from Gentiles chametz. Bagvulin, maybe if it's out of your home but in your territory, the prohibition would be only if it's your own chametz. How do I know that all the restrictions of in your home are equally there for the prohibitions of your entire property? Now we know why the verse uses the word se'ar. Se'ar gives us Xera Shava. You know why? Because in Pasuk A it says se'ar. In Pasuk B it says se'ar, which is another word for chametz. Why would we use this additional word, not for poetry, to teach us Xera Shava? It says the word se'ar by homes. Se'ar le'imot. V'nemar se'ar b'gvulim, and in the Pasuk that talks about your entire property, all your territory. Just as in the home, the chametz, one is not allowed to have seen or found or hidden or even holding on to this chametz of a guy. The same strange, not typical word is used in both places to use one of the most prevalent formula of one of the most prevalent of the attributes of analysis or exegesis of the verses of the Torah, and that is the Gzeira Shava. The same word in two places teaches us that we transfer all the facts, the halachic facts of one to the other.
Rabbi.
One time I was saying, Amar Big Vulim, same thing when we talk about a prohibition of having chametz in your broader territory. Oiver mishum, vayira, you're not allowed to see it. Vayimatza, you're not to have it. Vayatmin, you're not to hide it. Vayikabel, b'gdanis menagoyim. You're not allowed to receive and hold on to chametz from a Gentile. Why would you receive chametz from a Gentile? I mean, there are many reasons why one might do so, but maybe he owes you money. And he says, I don't have money, but I can give you a blue label, should be worth at least $150, $200. And I've got another 1950 bottle of I don't know what, and it's got to be worth something. So would you mind holding on to my mashka? So maybe that would happen.
Maybe he's just a good friend or colleague who knows it's your holiday and wants to give a little gift.
Because if it's a gift,
could flowers, or could send a big cake.
No, because if it was a gift, it would be a real problem. The chiddush here is that you're holding on to it, but you don't own it. If it's a gift, you're in trouble. You got to get rid of it. Yeah, but maybe he says, listen, I'm going out of town, and I don't trust my my kids to not drink the bottle. Would you mind holding on to these while they're gone? That's another good scenario. And
Rabbi,
yes,
I guess the question that's in the background is, what if you become the owner of chametz during Passover that you didn't own before?
The Gemara will discuss that. What if you find chametz or you become the owner of chametz? The short answer is you destroy it at your first chance possible.
No, but the gift would be something like that. He gives you something that wasn't yours before.
The guy gives you a blue label.
Yeah.
What you should do is, right after the Seder, they thank you so much after he leaves, or maybe even while he's there, that you have to already, I don't know what a radical you are. You go to the bathroom, you open the bottle, and you pour every last drop down the toilet. I know that sounds painful, but that's...
Could you not say, I don't...
You don't need to tell him you did it.
I don't intend to keep it. I'm going to give it back to him.
No. Once he gives it to you and you've taken ownership, it's too late. And chametz she'avar alav es pesach. If a Gentile gives you chametz and you own it of the Pesach, well, we're getting ahead of ourselves. Anyways,
so Rabbi,
I don't mean to trigger anyone here, but
so in all this discussion, does anyone anywhere present the thought of it's yontif? Don't do it to the extent that you can't enjoy your yontif?
What do you mean?
I mean, we have so many restrictions. At a certain point, it takes over from the joy.
You're saying we need to have.
You know, it's supposed to be a holiday of freedom.
Hold on, let me try to repackage what you're saying. Yontif is supposed to be a holiday of freedom and joy. So therefore, although the Torah says you're not allowed to own chametz, don't make the guy pour out the blue label, because that's going to be very, very difficult, and it's going to cause him to be sad. Is that what you're saying?
Among other things.
So that
not a good argument. Well, why is that different from saying, you know what? If I could travel on Shabbos, I would be able to go.
Exactly. I don't think we would say that. Now, I'll tell you what we would say. If the guy drops off a delicious Zamex melt-away from 5 towns,
this is exactly. Go ahead.
So then, if you put that down your toilet, you're not going to have Simchas Yontif, because you're not going to have your plumbing's going to be clogged up. So then what you should do is wait till after Yontif, and then make a little bonfire and burn that delicious melt-away, which that's going to cause a lot of sadness.
So we're back to the mushrooms. You could burn the mushrooms, enjoy it.
Maybe throw in some mushrooms.
I don't know if you remember the story in Israel a few years ago. A Rebbe, he sold the chametz, including the alcohol of this congregation, to an Arab, but apparently he didn't explain to him the whole thing exactly. And the Arab thought that he actually had possession. It's his. He went ahead and sold the alcohol to a third party. And the people had to bring the liquor from home and give it away, because he sold it to somebody else.
And you know what?
It was a big story.
From the fact that they actually delivered liquor, it shows that the mechira was legit. One of the
Yeah,
one of the tiniest.
however, I don't know how many people actually bought everything, and maybe not that the blue label, and I don't know. I'm just kidding.
There's another story that was going around making the headlines, a nice story, which is there's a big distributor. I'm sure you saw this. A big distributor.
Yeah, I thought you find supposed to cover it up and wait till after you, because it was Chumash on Yantav on Pesach was Muktzah. You weren't supposed to handle it. And if you could discover Chumash on Yantav, you're supposed to cover it over until after Yantav because it was Muktzah.
You'll burn it, yeah.
As opposed to disposing it on Yantav.
Yeah.
You were about to tell us about a distributor.
Oh, yeah. There's a very large beer distributor in the tri-state area, and it was discovered that he was Jewish. And it's a big problem because if he's Jewish, a Gentile that owns chametz on Pesach is not a problem. But if a Jew owns chametz on Pesach, it's a problem, not only for the Jew, maybe he's not religious, he doesn't know it's a problem, but for the consumer, you cannot purchase chametz that belong to a Jew over Pesach. And every year after Pesach, and I know we're getting way ahead of ourselves, lists go around and say, you could buy chametz from Publix, but you should think about buying from Albertsons for 30 days. I'm sorry, I don't mean Albertsons. They shouldn't come suing me. I don't know if it was Albertsons. There are certain stores, I was just using that as an example, that have Jewish owners, and you cannot buy chametz. And then every year there's a pilpul, someone looks in the board of directors and finds that one of the board of directors, whatever. Anyways, here's the point. Jewish guy owns the beer, you can't buy from him. Different hachsherim tried for years to convince him, and he always was resistant. There's a rabbi, a Yerushalmi rabbi, and once you hear Yerushalmi, you know that there's an extra degree of tenacity and determination than a regular person. And so there's a Yerushalmi Jew who is a Chabadnik called Rabbi Weinfeld, who works with the OK. And he, I don't know, chased him down and somehow convinced him. At the end of 1 year, like it was like after Pesach, he told him, listen, you're losing all this business. I don't know, he convinced him. And the guy, the next year, sold the chametz. And it was a big simcha because all the kosher stores could sell his beer and he could make a whole lot more money. But that's not the punchline. The punchline is this guy since has deeply reconnected to his roots. And he's put on tefillin, and maybe they went together to visit the kever of his grandfather. There's like a whole journey of Jewish growth that followed from this Jew agreeing to sell the chametz. Should we Google it? Let's Google it.
Rabbi, one fast question. If you're a shareholder in a company, you're a part owner.
Yeah, but it probably goes by the majority, I would think. No,
we'll get to. Let's know.
Okay.
Here, Manhattan Beer, 2019 sells the chametz for the first time. Of course, other organizations said they're not going to accept the mechira. It was fun, but here we go. Okay, here, this is their press release. Manhattan Beer Distributor CEO honored at annual OK Mashgiach dinner, Mr. Simon Bergson, second from left. Sold the chametz. He sold his entire chametz the first time with his son, Alex and Mitchell, his brother Jerry, his friend David, and Rabbi Nassim Sternberg. Rabbi Bergson, the son of Holocaust survivors, a proud Jew, was honored for his dedication of doing Mechiras Chametz. And anyways, and the rest is history. Here we go. Here's the pictures if you're curious. The largest single market beer distributor in the country, providing beer to hundreds of stores. Yom Tov.
Neat.
Okay, one second. אני בעצם באמצע שירה. אתה צריך? Okay. Yom Tov.
Okay. No,
oh, here, you see they visited the kever of the parents.
Yeah.
Anyways, oh. So what did that have to do with anything? Hold on, why is everyone muted?
You're muted, Bernie.
I was saying, Rabbi, that maybe you should reach out, Kiruv, offer them an exclusive to use only their beer for Kiddush and any other event in lieu of whatever major donation.
I'm not sure, but they've it's one of those, it's one of the nice stories, where things worked out in the end.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, other kashrus organizations said that they're not makabel the okay's mechira. I mean, if you, he's never 100% the happy ever after. But no, Baruch Hashem, it was good news.
Reliable one.
All righty. Umasa or Hamar Bigvulim Shachayat Revatarish. No, we did that already, right?
Why do you think like that?
Umasa or Hamar Bigvulim Shachayat Revatarish Lachem Shalgvaya. But just as the chametz in your territory has to be yours, Afsar Marbatam Shachayat Revatarish Lachem Shalgvaya. But if it's not your chametz, it's not as big a disaster for you to see it, which is why you could sell your chametz to a Gentile. And this is the Brisa. The Brisa covering a whole large variety of traditions. All right, let's see now that's the Brisa, long Brisa. Now we're going to start reviewing this Brisa with some analysis. We already got a heads up because we read Rashi. I only know that you're not allowed to have chametz of a Gentile who is not under your, who you did not overcome. It's Rabbi Stein's translation, and doesn't dwell with you. But what if the Gentiles' chametz is in your property? It should not be found. The Gemara asked the question, Klape laya, punkt verkehrt. I would imagine that should be the opposite. Let's read Rashi, and then we'll read Rabbi Steinsaltz. Shtei milos klape hechanoite davar zeh ha'ibcha mistabra. Nachri shekivashtoi mistabra dasr tvei. It's more probable that a Gentile that's in your space should be prohibited. So the whole thing doesn't make sense. Let's read Rabbi Steinsaltz. On the contrary, the prohibition regarding the levens of a Gentile who is subservient to you and lives with a Jew is more obvious than the prohibition regarding chametz of a Gentile who is not. The Tana should have started with the leaven belonging to a Gentile who is subservient to a Jew, and then expanded to include all Gentiles' chametz. Abaye says, you know what? Eipuch. We need to restructure the Brisa. Rashi. Heichon. No. Basically, Abaye says, here's how you should restructure the Brisa. It's obvious to me that you're not allowed to have chametz belonging to a Gentile who's under your influence. How do I know a Gentile who's not under your influence? It says it should not be found, period. So that's how Abaye deals with this problem. Rava disagrees. No, we do not reimagine the Brisa. And this comment about the Gentile not knowing the Gentile is not really a hemshech to the immediately prior discussion. It refers to the ratio. What's the ratio? Lehetera. It's giving us a heter. Not only, you're not allowed to see your own chametz. You're allowed to see the chametz that doesn't belong to you, belongs to someone else. The Chiddush, I could agree that the guy, if you have no influence over the Gentile, you'd be allowed to see his chametz. How do I know that even chametz belonging to a Gentile who's in your house? How do I know that you're allowed to let your nurses who's in your house have chametz? It should not be found to you. But
what I find interesting, it's not a question, I'm just saying I find it interesting, is the Rabbanim at that time were discussing a possibility that really did not exist in reality.
What do you mean?
What I mean is we did not, there was no issue of kibashto at the time. We did not rule at that time the actual territory of Israel. Am I correct? At that time, at the 500 AD around.
I think first you have to realize this brisa was part of an oral tradition that probably
No, I understand. And I said that's what's interesting. I find that even though they didn't, they were still discussing the possibility. And today, it's actually happened in reality. Today, we do rule, and that becomes appropriate really to today's, 2,000 years later, it became reality.
Yeah. I think the brisa is giving us broad parameters to imagine why and what the situation is. Kivashtoi, Ashari Imach B'Chatzer. But yeah.
And today we have fights in Israel whether you should bring chametz into a hospital or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one's ridiculous.
You know what?
Rabbi, I have a question.
Is it on the subject matter
or first down? Why only when I ask the question it comes to me as the subject matter?
That's a question that we might ask ourselves.
It says that we should, maybe it should say we shouldn't eat chametz. Why does it have to say we can't see chametz? You know what I'm saying? To explain, we're in a hospital, we're here, we're there, you know what I'm saying?
You should not see your own. So we're in the middle of a conversation.
You don't want to be tempted. You don't want to be tempted. Come on.
The Torah prohibits. The Torah doesn't want us to have chametz around on Pesach. Not just we cannot eat it. We shouldn't be having our chametz hanging around. Is a prohibition of owning chametz. Actually, if not for this prohibition, we would not do bidika and bir chametz, right? We would not be getting rid of the chametz. Anyways, my defense. Yes, Rebero?
Maybe this question of ruling in today's world is your employees, people that work for you, etc.
Maybe, yeah. They have their office in your place.
Yeah, I think the problem is with the translation into English to rule over whatever they use.
I don't respectfully. I don't love that aspect of the translation. And because there are multiple translations, we can be more critical than maybe I would be entitled to on my own. Anyways, my dear friends, we're going to end just a minute or two early. I want to thank you all for joining. Wish a wonderful day. And
thank you, Rabbi.
It's
Rosh Chodesh, which means that we have exactly 2 weeks till Pesach.
Quick
Good time
question.
to start throwing the chametz.
Do you have any idea when you're going to have a list of selling the chametz, when you're going to be available? I can come by anytime.
I'll post it. Mitzvah Hashem by tomorrow, and then I'll have it around. I'm around most mornings, so I'll.
Okay, I'll come by.
Bye.
Very good. Thank you.
Today's a good day to start all the Pesach preparations. If we haven't done so already, anyone needs a box of shmura, reach out to me, please. If you live in Montreal, I'm going to defer to my colleagues there.
But, plenty.
How about Brooklyn?
Brooklyn too. All our matzah comes from Brooklyn. For me to ship matzah from Miami would be. All right. Have a great day. Good Chodesh.
You too, Rabbi. Bye-bye. Thank you, guys. Bye.